And after a brief week off, we are back with another Masks of Nyarlathotep with Maxine, Lottie, and William. And so we're going to pick up right where we left off, which was at the train station. So for a very quick recap, you're waiting for the train to Nairobi, and a little an Indian boy came up to you, William, and handed you your ticket and said that you had dropped it. And you checked your pockets. Nothing seemed to be amiss. And as well, it is your ticket. So you accepted the ticket, but as the boy was leaning over, you couldn't help but notice that he was wearing this pendant around his neck, which I don't think would have much significance to William particularly, but Maxine and Lottie would see it as well, and it would to them. And that's where we left off.
So we are basically standing outside the train, correct?
Yeah, you're on the platform waiting for the train.
Is there a separate platform for coach?
There's not a separate platform, it's just further down. You're not exactly sure the configuration of the train as far as the cars go, but it sure looks like the poor people and the colored people are going to be up closer to the front of the train, and the further back you go, the more wealthy the clientele. So you have first class tickets, so you're part of the platform, if you will, where people are standing, mostly milling around to wait for the train, is at the end of the platform. And the boy's, I don't know, mother or grandmother, you're not entirely sure. She could be either or maybe not even a relative, you don't know, but you kind of assume. She has the look of someone, because she calls the boy over rather irritatedly when she sees where he is. Clearly she wasn't sure, like she lost him for a minute. She's further up the platform, but not very far from where you are.
Does she say a name?
She says something in I guess it's Pashto. I forget what they probably speak. You have no idea. The name might be in there somewhere, but you can try to make a hard intelligence check to see if you can figure out what part of that would be his name. It's not going to be easy.
Sorry, it went through the first time, so no.
Yeah, you're just not sure. It's a, she says it's like a long, very irritated command and complaint all in one, and it's somewhere in there, probably his name.
I think last game we had a quick exchange where we decided that they were spying on us.
Yeah, that would probably happen right after the boy. He waves at you and smiles, William. And then he runs back to her.
Max is going to look at William. I think you better go thank that boy for his honesty. Maybe offer him a reward. Maybe get an introduction.
What did he say before? I can't remember what I said. I said something about that.
Oh yeah, I think you offered him money, and he said his mother wouldn't like that.
I'll tell his mother what a honest boy she has. I want to know that woman's name.
He looks over to He looks over to her and nods in their direction. Maybe we should go ask.
You can see she's in the middle of dressing him down, and he's just standing there, kind of with his hands behind his back, just sort of like stretching and trying. He's sort of listening to her, but he's also just kind of too excited, looking around at everything. And she kind of has to slap him in the face a little bit to get his attention, because he's just not paying attention. And she does glance over in your direction at one point and makes brief eye contact with you.
Smile, William.
William will start to walk over there slowly. And
you can see the instant you start over, you can see her face kind of falls and is not happy, and she turns back to him and she starts redoubling her her disciplining, whatever that is that she's saying, and it's clear it has something to do with what just happened.
William's going to start to look around in the crowd. Is there anybody maybe watching or anything like that? Watching
well,
him?
So they are. You notice, as you get closer. Actually, I mean, even as you start to walk over there, it's pretty clear. Most of the people in this part of the platform are Indian. There are a few what you assume would be Kenyans, but most are Indian. And there's a very large Indian population in Kenya, especially in Nairobi and in Mombasa and Nairobi.
And,
so yeah, there's a few Indian people that are looking, with mild curiosity at what's going on, because she's making something of a scene.
He'll call to the boy's mother and say, I just wish to give the boy a reward for his gift.
She stiffens a little bit, and she takes a step towards you, and you notice she makes kind of a subtle, with her one arm, she pushes the boy behind her, like, get behind me kind of thing. And she says, it is no problem, sir. I told him not to interfere in other people's business. Leave you alone. I apologize for his actions.
And William just smiles and kind of palms the pendant there. And,
wait, does what?
We didn't get the pendant.
Did
it was
he give him the...
No. You just noticed it around his neck.
Oh, that's right. And what did he handed me? He had handed me something?
Your ticket, your train ticket.
I take it back. Okay.
Dropped it or something.
Yeah. And what did you want me to get? His name? Her name or something like that?
Introduce yourself, Maxine elbows him.
So you're kind of with him too, Maxine?
I think we probably all stuck together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She gives the three of you. Yeah, okay. Well, she gives the two of you at least then a look, and it's quite clear to both of you she's not happy about this exchange at all. Whatever is about to take place, she seems, her body language says she wants this to be over as quick as possible.
Max smiles sweetly, and she holds out a hand and says, "From one mother to another, that's one honest boy you got there. You should be proud. I'm Maxine. Mrs.
She says he is nothing but trouble. Always getting into other people's business." I have told him countless times it will get him in trouble one day.
Oh, I am sure he's well-meaning, Mrs. I didn't catch your name.
She says, Naidu.
Mrs. Naidu. Well, I know that for some people it might cause trouble, but just so you know, he was no trouble to us. We're very grateful. You two have a lovely day.
She looks unsure, but she makes an expression that you think might be a smile, but it's kind of hard to tell. It could be a frown, it could be a smile. Her lips are just kind of twisted up a little. She doesn't look like the kind of woman that smiles a lot.
Yeah.
William just offers her a smile and nods to the boy and turns towards Maxine. All right. She looked quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, she says as she walks away, a grin plastered to her face. There's a good reason for that, I'm sure. And as she walks back to where Lottie is, she kind of huddles near them. Do we really want to get on this train?
Well, I think the bigger question is, have you actually checked that ticket that he gave you, William? Is there anything written on it? Or is it just your ticket?
William is gonna check that out as soon as she says that.
There is a handwritten note that says "Die colonialist oppressor," but other than that, it's normal.
Does it really?
No, it's there's nothing written on it at all.
Looks like my ticket.
Yeah. No,
He wrote that.
It just. I mean, the thing is, the train tickets don't have a name on it or anything, right? It's just a ticket, a first-class ticket. But the compartment is correct, so it's the one you remember getting when you got the ticket. So it looks like this must be your ticket, and you don't find your own ticket anywhere on your person. You would have stuck it in your pocket.
Right. He's going to slide it back into his pocket after observing it and make sure the rest of his items are in place.
Okay.
Like his wallets and whatnot.
Great. So a train does pull in. And as it's pulling in, you actually recognize Captain Terrence approaching you on the platform. He takes a quick look around. He comes in from the train office and looks around and sees you and kind of rushes over and kind of puts his hand up in greeting to get your attention. And he seems to have an envelope in his hand that he's carrying.
Uh-oh. William will smile to him. Very large smile, very welcoming and warm. And Captain Terrence.
I'm pleased I found you, Mr. Stevens. It was there was some question. I thought I remembered you were heading to Nairobi this morning. Lucky thing, too, he hands you an envelope. He says his telegram arrived from Cairo this morning, addressed to you.
Oh, just in time. Kind of looks over towards Maxine and Lottie, a little worried look, but takes it.
Okay.
Well, thank you, sir.
You open up. He says, if you'd like, I can wait in case you have a reply. He says, obviously, I did not take the liberty to read it. I put it in this envelope immediately.
And it came to the residence here in Mombasa?
That is correct, yes, Mum.
Well, what's it say, William?
He's gonna open it.
Okay.
Kind of
That is-
step away, make sure it's out of view.
Yep, that's the telegram.
Oh my. Maxine looks to both of them. There's a British embassy in Nairobi, am I right?
Yes, Mum, of course. It's really the primary embassy for Kenya. Ours here is more of a adjutant embassy, you might say.
Do you think that's where we better have the messages sent, William?
And he seems kind of disturbed at first, but then it kind of makes more sense to him, and he nods, and he says, "Very good, yes."
So, shall I telegram back, sir, that you want your communications forwarded to the embassy in Nairobi?
Please do, sir. That would help out very much.
Of course, of course. I shall take care of it. Enjoy your visit. And he he nods to the ladies, Mum, and walks away.
That was from Frank Nasford. Did I tell you I ran into him before we left Cairo?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, everything was... I might have forgotten, but I run into him and... Well... He said he'd forward any messages that came to Mr. Pepin and Miss Natalia, seeing as I was best positioned to... I'm kind of the only person who knew him. From... Well, maybe it's from that Shelley lady. She said she was going to send something in that journal.
It could be. Well, whatever it is, I hope it's going to be of some help.
Maxine kind of shrugs. But the issue at hand here, they're going to be boarding soon. We know these folks are looking at us. Do we want to get on this train?
It's going to look strange if we don't get on the train, won't it?
Well, we could maybe wait for them to board. Act like we're still standing in line, and then last minute, just not get on.
The only issue, I understand that the whole, upside down unk, pendant the child dad was a bit of a problem, but I'm not quite sure exactly why he'd be handing you your ticket there, William. I'm not exactly sure any of this and how it makes sense or doesn't make sense, and why we should stop going on the train, unless you care to exactly explain it to me.
I just figure if they're watching us, yeah, it's better to avoid that. If
They're going to be watching us no matter where we go at this
Yeah,
thing.
except they can't be, because they'll be in frickin' Nairobi. I don't think this train makes no other stops.
It does make a small handful of stops along the way.
I gotcha.
There are very small, it's water stops with a few farms and British encampments.
Yeah. I guess my
Not
point is
much.
that they ain't going to be in first class. They won't know whether we're on or not. I'm willing to get on if you ain't worried about it. It's just, I don't like people looking, watching me unless it's for the right reasons. Still, might be useful knowing who is watching us.
At least know that someone is. Lottie turns to William.
William seems more relaxed than really worried, and he smiles towards Lottie and nods and says, "I think we'll be all right if we just pretend everything's all right, and we'll just watch our backs."
That's all I really can do at this point.
Yeah, all right then. Well, we might as well aboard and get comfy then.
Make sure we're not followed. How did that boy get that ticket out of my pocket?
That's a good question.
People are starting to get on the train. Passengers have already gotten off, and they've kind of walked the train, and now passengers are allowed to get on.
I think at least Lottie, for sure, is going to be getting on that train.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna stick together. Max will do her best to seem nonchalant and unconcerned.
Yeah, William will be the same way, pretending everything's fine, smiling at the two, offering to help them up the stairs onto the train, and just kind of looking under the brim of his hat, perhaps, and watching at all times to make sure no one's following or
Okay.
watching them too closely.
Make a spot hidden check. A fumble.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard with spot hiddens to translate a fumble into something.
She thinks he's leering at her sexually.
Yes, yeah. You look around
Lottie gets mad.
And at one point you look right at the grandmother, like you're just looking around, and she just happens to be looking right at you, and you stare just a moment too long, and she just kind of makes this irritated face, like, why are you looking at me? And she kind of pushes her boy onto the train, and she kind of just shakes her head and gets on. And you can't hear her, but you can see her lips moving, and she's obviously yelling again at the boy.
Jeez. He's gonna realize that he's staring a little too long at last point, and just kind of fix his hats a little bit and follow the others.
On the positive side, though, while she was busy looking, you did notice he also noticed you, and he just kind of makes this like little sneaky smile and wave at you, like he's kind of looking out of the corner of his eyes to make sure his mom's not watching, because he knows he's probably not supposed to talk to you or wave, but he kind of gives you this little smile and wave, and then she shoves him on board the train.
It is that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, though. That's okay.
I suppose I could have had you looking around so hard that you hit your head on something. You suddenly turn because you think you hear somebody behind you. But no.
I was thinking I was going to be. Oh yeah, someone is following us. It's that guy over there.
No, that's too obvious. If in a fumble, I mean, that would be great. If it was a secret roll, then I definitely would have done that. But you fumbled, so it has to be something obvious.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So and clearly you have no idea if anybody's watching you or not with a fumble. Even you know that you don't know. So you get on board.
He'll be sure to mention to them as they're walking. Everything looks okay so far.
Yep. So this picture is a little not quite representative, but it gives the idea. There is a dining car. So you're in the first class compartment car. That's the last car on the train, and the next car up is the dining car, which would be something like this. It's not quite as fancy. But so you're on the train. People are getting into their compartments. They're a little tight, but the seats are actually pretty nice leather. The train itself, though, is a little strange. Like, I think, William, you've probably been on a number of trains, and all the trains you've been on are made of wood. The cars are wooden. This car, and you noticed every other car on the train, with the exception of the wood for the engine, is made out of steel, which is a little weird. No, you don't check mark failures. You only check successes. Okay. So yeah. So you guys settle into your compartments. Maxine and Lottie, you're together. William, you're in your own.
Let's
Or how do you want to do it?
Let's stick together. I don't know.
Well, there's not going to be enough room to sleep during the when you're awake. You can more or less comfortably fit two on a side, so you could get 4 people in the compartment. But you can see that the way the bed folds out, it's very small. You're not going to get 2 people in there.
Are we next to each other?
You're across the hall from one another.
Okay. How long is this trip supposed to be?
It's supposed to leave at, I think it's like 10 in the morning, and it gets in at 8 the next morning. So it's almost it's a 22-hour train ride.
Okay.
Yeah, I think William is going to maybe spend some time, if he can, reading some of the documents they might have brought with them.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that works. Because that would help you catch up on things. So yeah, the train does eventually pull out of the station, and you get going.
I guess since it's going to be daytime for a long time, Max is going to start circulating through the first class, kind of making note of who's there, chit-chat, who's got expensive jewelry.
Well, the thing is, they're not open, so these are closed compartments.
But there's the dining car,
it's a
right?
Sleeper, yeah. So you could go. I mean, you can pass by people's compartments and peek in their windows if they haven't slid the little curtain closed. There's a 1 foot diameter round, almost like a porthole in the door, so you can see into the compartments. Some of them have been, have a curtain. Most of them do not have them closed. So you can get a sense of who's on board. And yes, there's a dining car.
Max is just looking for a good opportunity, like someone's drunk and has a nice bracelet, or she's noticed someone that's rich and she notices when they leave to go to the dining car and their room is still open.
Ah, okay.
She's getting poor. She needs things to sell.
Yeah, got it. So yes, you can. Let's see. What I'm gonna just have you do a skill check of some kind here. I think just an intelligence to spot a mark, or that kind of look for an opportunity, and then will depend. Okay, so hard success. So that would mean I'm gonna say you recognize there's a rich looking older woman, and she has, you assume, a Kenyan footman or servant who helps her into the car, into the dining car, and she forgot something back at the compartment, and he goes back to get it, and so you can follow him and see where her compartment is while they're there.
Yeah, she will do that.
So yes, the the footman unlocks the compartment and comes back out with a little book and some reading glasses, and you can make a luck check. Unfortunately, he remembers to lock the compartment behind him. That doesn't mean you can't pick it. You look at these locks, and they don't look very difficult.
She is gonna look around to the left and to the right. Wait for his form to definitely leave the car, and pull out her lock picks and see if she can get it pretty fast.
Now there is a conductor who seems to be perpetually standing about in this car. Like,
oh, gotcha.
He's got his little box at the front of the first class car with little bells in it, so you can pull a rope from your compartment and the correct bell will ring and he can come and see what you want. But it doesn't afford him a great view of the hall from where he typically stands.
Now, where are our rooms in comparison to this?
So I'm saying your rooms are a little bit back from the middle, towards the rear of the train. Sorry, toward the rear of the car.
Right. She'll hustle over there and open their car and say, Lottie, can you pull the little bell here and tell the conductor that you're feeling sick and you want to know if he's got anything for severe train sickness?
Lottie's been in the middle of reading some notes as well, and she looks up, and there's a slight frown, a shrug. All right. And she stands up and rings the bell.
Wait for me to leave! And Maxine is down the hall.
Yeah, she rang them, and you're going down the hall and almost bump into the conductor coming around the corner, to answer the call. And he just steps aside and just kind of gives you a pleasant nod.
Yeah, she tries to play it off, nods back, goes past him.
And the conductor comes to the door and knocks.
Oh, hello there, and Lottie waves him in. Sorry to bother you.
Not at all, miss.
I'm feeling a little bit, train sick. You have
I'm
these
very
things?
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you. You think you have anything to settle on the stomach? It's, doing a bit of flips.
Oh, I'll be happy to check in the kitchen for you, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much, sir.
He says, I'll be right back.
Lottie gives a nod, a pained expression.
He says, in the meantime, I suggest you sit quietly and try to avoid too much motion. And
I will.
He says,
Thank
as
you.
the train rocks back and forth, it's not a rough ride, but it's not as smooth as some of the trains you've been on in England. And he heads back up the car. And Maxine, I assume you're sort of hovering around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he again just kind of nods to you as he passes by and goes into the dining car.
All right, she's gonna take advantage of what she thinks is probably gonna be a fairly brief moment, but he's at least gotta speak to someone, take something, and not run back.
Fortunately for you, like you know that the kitchen part of the dining car is at the front of that car, so he's got to make his way down, go in there. You figure you have maybe 3 or 4 minutes, maybe.
Yeah. So she'll take a deep breath and see if she can break in.
Okay. First, make a luck check. Okay. And now a locksmith.
Oh no!
No. It's an easy lock. You get a bonus die.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, like my hand somehow gets caught in the door.
Yeah, right.
Finger, you get degloved. It's terrible.
No, it takes you longer than you would have liked. But you managed to get it open.
Alright, so she'll give a sigh of relief, go in quickly, close the door, relock it, and take a look around and just see if she can spot anything. She's allotting herself 5 minutes in here.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, make a spot hidden check.
Oh.
Do you want to push it? I think you have a good idea what might happen if you fail after
Yeah,
pushing.
no. I don't think so.
Okay. So, you find a few things. I mean, you don't find any jewelry, though, and that's what you were probably looking for. So she's definitely got her jewels stashed. She's got to have jewels. She looks like the kind of woman who would have some. But they're hidden somewhere in here. But you do manage to find a few odds and ends that could be pawned.
She'll just take what she thinks won't be missed right away or blamed on the boy.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
And then she'll tuck them away down her bodice and head out.
Okay. All right, well, you get out in time. You close the door behind you. You do not have time to lock it again before the conductor comes back, though. And he goes to the cabin, Lottie, and gives you some, I don't know what, something that might help your motion sickness. A powder to take and some water.
Perfect. Lottie takes it and gives the conductor a nod. Thank you so much for this. I very much appreciate it.
It's not at all. I seek to make your journey as pleasant as possible. If there's anything else I can do for you, just ring.
Thank you. Lottie will take the concoction of whatever it is.
Yep. Okay. And the conductor goes back to his little nest. Anything else?
I think Max will go back to the room and look a little bit grumpy, but how's your stomach?
That's mighty fine now. What in the blazes were you doing there, Maxine?
Trying to keep us in food. All right. Well, another day, another dollar. There will be another chance.
Right. And good luck to you next time, there, Maxine. And Lottie leans back, and she has a paper that she unfolds and cracks it open to read.
Yeah, Maxine starts, she gets out a little sewing kit and starts sewing the items that are small enough into little, pockets into her skirt and whatever. The sort of things she do.
Yep. Restless. Okay. Well, lunch is served throughout the afternoon. There are tables designated first class, second class. So you can go do lunch anytime. Dinner is served in rotation, first class, second class earlier, and then first class later.
Ah, okay.
Lunch is a little less formal.
What language you figure they was talking, Lottie?
Unfortunately, nothing I spoke.
That'd be a gift, huh? Be able to understand anything, anybody?
That'd be. I'm sure many people would pay a great deal of money for someone who could translate just about anything, to be honest.
Hindi, Punjabi, lots of languages. There are 22 languages spoken in India.
And we have none of them.
Exactly.
There's over 20 languages they could be speaking. It's quite a diverse culture they have, to be perfectly honest. It's quite fascinating, actually. I'm thinking you might know a bit more there, Williams, considering you're the anthropologist.
He looks. What's
Go
that?
ahead. I was gonna make a comment that Lottie said. He's got a mouthful of food. He can't talk.
He looks up from one of the journals that he was looking over, and he's like, "I'm sorry."
Oh, just referring to maybe because you're an anthropologist, you know a bit more about Indian culture and the various Indian languages there be.
Does he know about them?
Make an anthropology check for me. So given a bonus die, I'm gonna say you know about them. You can name most of them. You just, and you might even recognize at least a couple of the more common ones from, heavily populated areas. But you're certainly no expert in the languages of India.
Stuff like that. He'll say, "I'm certainly no expert. This is actually my first time."
First time being here, first time meeting someone of Indian descent.
My first time being here, of course. But I have read about some of the different dialects.
It's more than me then.
Well, weren't you studying the language?
No, I'm not studying any of the languages that Well, people from India speak. I was studying Swahili to understand the people here in Kenya.
Yeah, I didn't suspect there was going to be so many Indian people here. I just didn't picture it that way.
Neither did I.
Well, William would know that the Indians were here before the British. They settled some of the coast.
He'll mention that for sure. They were actually here before the British.
That's
Where did you run off to? Where did you run off to, Maxine?
I was just trying to make a living, William, she says, shaking her head.
He'll smile and mischievous little smile and like, oh, I should get some more tea.
Yeah, we should find out where a good place to stay in Nairobi's gonna be. I reckon some of these folks know.
Well, we can ask him if you'd really like.
Yeah, let's go talk to some people.
Sure.
So during one of the meals,
Okay. Well, lunch, yeah. You can go and... let's see. There's an interesting couple sitting at one of the tables.
they seem quite absorbed in each other.
The table across from them is unoccupied. They actually don't seem all that absorbed in one another. The young man is looking out the window at the passing countryside, and the woman is just drinking tea and looking bored.
I guess they'll take that table.
Yeah, I mean, they look like the most likely people to strike up a conversation with, actually.
William is going to, as he's walking past, and kind of puts his hand out for the ladies to sit first, and then he speaks to the red-haired woman or auburn-haired woman, and he says, "And how are you finding the tea?"
She shrugs, and she says, "To be honest, I'm still having difficulty getting used to this. It has a strange flavor." And the young man looks over, and he says, "Well, I'm sorry, my dear. That's all they're going to have to drink here." And he says, "Oh, my apology if I'm being rude." He stands up and holds out a hand to you, William. He says, "Rodney Scott, and this is my friend Ingrid."
And William smiles warmly and offers his hand and gives him a strong handshake. And
his is actually a little limp for your taste, but yeah.
Yeah. Dr. William Stevens.
Doctor. No, I'm honored. He says, "Here to administer help to the natives, are we?" And Ingrid kind of shoots him a look and says, "Rodney, that is not very polite."
William chuckles a little bit. He says, "Actually, I'm an anthropologist."
Oh, my, I don't know that I've ever met an anthropologist before, to be quite honest. And Ingrid says, I have. We have quite a number of them in Germany. In fact, Germany is at the forefront of the study of anthropology, as I'm sure you are well aware.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Was that guy an anthropologist, by the way? Or an archaeologist? The other German man from Egypt. I mean, was it Egypt? Yeah, it was Egypt.
Yeah.
He was no archaeologist. He was an anthropologist.
I'm sorry. Max would remember his name. What was his name?
Dr. Oh gosh, now I forget. Oh dear. I can't keep all the names straight in my head. I am
Dr. McGerman.
Yeah, Dr. McGerman. No, shoot.
Is he down here?
I don't think I made him a card.
Well, we'll name drop him, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, have
I
you heard
know.
of this guy?
Oh, I'm embarrassed. I should know it. She says, I am no anthropologist myself. I did not claim to be. I was not trying to imply that every German was an anthropologist.
Ah, sorry, didn't mean to offend. So, what are you two doing here?
He says sightseeing, and she says we're looking, and then she stops when he says sightseeing, and she says sightseeing. She corrects herself.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. Where are you two planning on staying once you get to Nairobi? We never been there before. Really hadn't planned it out too well.
Ingrid says, oh, there are a couple of hotels that we have been informed of. There is the new Stanley Hotel. That seems to be the one if you are looking for something on the fancy side. And she looks at you, and then she says, and then there is the Norfolk Hotel, also perhaps a little upscale, but you might find it comfortable. And she says, there's also Hampton House, small and quaint.
Ah, quaint, I see.
She says, we're not sure where we're going to stay, are we yet, Rodney? And he says, no, we thought we'd pop by and give them all a look. He says, we won't be in Nairobi for too long in any case. And she kind of shoots him this look. And he says, yes, but we'll be at least staying there for a couple of nights, I should expect.
Do either of them have wedding rings on their fingers?
No.
Lottie looks to the both of them. Hi, name's Lottie. I'm very intrigued with the two of you traveling together.
Why would
you-
this intrigue you?
Well, just a man and a woman traveling together. It's no rings on the finger.
It's progressive.
She frowns, and you can see that Rodney immediately colors. His cheeks glow red. But she looks very irritated, and she says, I assure you it is nothing inappropriate. He said, we have been pen pals since childhood.
That's quite lovely, being pen pals as children. And I mean, did you recently meet up together? I mean, you're obviously from different places, it sounds like.
She says, yes. She says, we have managed to make time to meet, I believe, 3 times, is it not, Rodney? She says, it has been pleasant, but this is our first proper trip together.
Well, I don't blame ya. What,
Rodney kind of laughs nervously and says, yes, we're both a bit of homebodies, you see.
Yeah, I'm an adventurous sort myself, and unfortunately, when you're a woman and you want to see the world, and she shrugs and then kind of points her thumb over at William, you gotta have a chaperone, am I right?
She again kind of shoots you this irritated look, and he says, well, yes, a woman shouldn't travel by herself. And she says, Rodney, I'm quite fine by myself. I have lived most of my life on my own. I can take care of myself. I don't need a chaperone.
Yeah, well, I wish that was the reality of it, lady, but you attract a lot more trouble than you would otherwise when you're on your own. Whether or not you're a victim, that's how people see you.
Well, then I feel sorry for them. They will be rudely surprised.
Maxine just grins broadly at that. Oh, I like this lady more and more.
Oh, I do too.
She says, from your accent, I can only guess that you are from America. And your manners.
She shrugs and she says, well, you ain't wrong. And I ain't apologizing for my manners. Just because they're different from yours don't make them less good.
Yes. She says it seems that you are also traveling together, and I am assuming that none of you are married to one another, so the question could be asked of you as well. Are you chaperoning these two young ladies, sir?
Well, you know, you just, when you're traveling together, especially sometimes with a man, you just sometimes just see what happens on the way.
Oh, yeah. It's more fun that way. Sometimes you see what happens with all your companions. She's...
You can see Rodney getting very uncomfortable at this line of... And he kind of fidgets with his tea that's clearly cold by now and barely touched.
Max doesn't
he
make
takes
any...
He takes a drink of it, and you know, clearly it's pretty terrible now because it's cold. But he makes himself drink it to give him something to do.
William's face gets a little red too at that, and he says, "I'm a bit of a bookworm as well. So yes, it was fun though to get out.
You
and,
are
see
you
the
are a
world.
reader. What do you read, if I may ask?
Mostly books about the history and cultures. I love learning about different people, where they're from, and what they pretend to be like."
So you are here to learn about the people of this country. It is a noble goal.
You know,
Yes.
yeah, we got more specific things that we're studying, to be honest. But you're probably not all that interested.
Well, we have several more hours before evening, and I must say I don't sleep very well typically, so I have many hours ahead of me of boredom. So please, I'm happy to indulge.
She looks at them for a minute and then says, well, answer me this first. You say you're not staying long in Nairobi. Well, what else is there? You planning on hitting the... What is it out there, jungle?
She says, I would have thought you had studied the geography a bit more before coming to a strange country. She says, there is much grassland, I think you call it savanna, if I'm not incorrect, and hills, mountains, forests. It has a bit of everything. If you go further north, you will hit deserts. Kenya is, how do you say, microcosm of the various climates and terrains of the world. It's a fascinating place.
Where's the Abadar? She mentions this and looks at their faces closely.
The Abadar?
Abadar Forest.
The Abadare forest, I think you say?
Ah, yeah.
She says, oh, it is actually quite close to Nairobi, in fact. You have a special interest in this place?
I think we'll end up going there eventually. And she's looking at them to see if that sparked any interest in them or...
You can certainly make a psychology check if you're looking to note any
terrible at
special
this.
reactions.
No.
I mean, you can push it if you want at the risk of staring too closely.
Sure, that seems pretty low. Risk. No. She just looks at them like it's really obvious.
Yeah.
Like,
She says, I sense that there's something special about this place. You're not telling me.
yeah.
You have relatives there, perhaps?
Yeah, not so much. Truth is, we're kind of following the path of a previous group of explorers. You might have heard of them. Last they were heard of was Abadara.
I don't believe I have heard of any particular group of explorers, but I'm sure there have been many. What was special about them?
And the Carlisle expedition?
You can make a luck check. She shakes her head, but Rodney says, oh, yes, I've heard of that one. That was some years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Some
yeah.
American chap, and well, I think a famous Egyptologist. They all, if I am remembering correctly, they all met a rather gruesome end at the hands of the locals.
That's what was said. Their bodies were never actually recovered.
And Ingrid looks at Rodney and says, and this was in the Abadari forest. And he says, honestly, I don't remember where it was. I just remember it was in country here, somewhere. It was quite a... it outraged quite a number of people at the time, as I recall. They got what they had coming to them, though. I remember being several of the ringleaders were hanged. It was a bloody time, as apparently.
Yeah, well, in my experience, authorities don't like to spend too much time actually investigating things. They prefer distributing justice swiftly, if not accurately.
He thinks about that for a moment, and he thinks, you're not suggesting that there was some sort of miscarriage of justice, are you?
She shrugs. I don't know. But there's some interested parties, and at least getting a little bit deeper into it. He left relatives in America.
Ingrid, you can see Ingrid's eyes narrow for just a moment. And she says, so I see your interest in this is professional.
She looks over at Ingrid. I wouldn't say that.
She says, oh, I have heard of these American private eyes.
Max just like just tilts her head back and laughs and laughs. And then she just kind of wipes her eyes after a second. Oh, me, a gumshoe. That's a new one on me.
She looks confused for a moment at your laughter, and she says, "Gumshoe? This is the proper term?"
Oh, yeah, because, they walk the streets. They get chewed up gum on the shoes from walking around so much. It's a nickname.
She's thinking about that, but you can see it makes no sense to her.
Anyway, nah. But if you all end up taking a trip out into the wilderness and you know of a good outfit for guides, a trustworthy source, yeah, please feel free to pass that on.
If you say so. I would be happy to pass whatever I hear about it to you.
Well, you're planning on getting a guide, aren't you?
I am told that it is necessary to have a guide, or one can easily become lost.
That's what I figured.
And though it is apparently not as dangerous as it was for this expedition you mentioned in most cases, I am warned that there is always the possibility of violence. Some of the Kenyan people here are not very appreciative of Europeans. And I suppose Americans as well, but I'm not sure they would be very careful with their distinctions.
Yeah, Max shrugs. Yeah, that's probably true. And yet, in we go. All of us.
I suppose that's the fun of it, though. The thrill of the danger.
Yeah. I mean, we could all be at
Isn't
home.
that why we're here?
It's true. We could all be at home knitting socks.
I must say, they dragged me out of the library, though.
And he did have his nose in the books there, and we found him. He hasn't seen the light of day, that's why he's so pasty all the time. Oh, I can't really say much.
It's the gloomy weather.
That's the British skin tone. It's built into you, ain't it?
So, what is there that's worth sightseeing then? She says, looking back at the other two.
Rodney says, well, we're not really much for hunting big game, but that seems to be all anyone talked about on the ship over.
Boys and their toys.
I suppose you could say that, yes. He says, I must say I haven't ever really quite taken to guns, if you know what I mean. You could see Ingrid kind of turn to him and say, "Oh, Rodney, do you have to wear your effeminacy on your sleeve all the time?"
There's room in this world for all kinds, says Max. And then she looks over to Ingrid and kind of touches the side of her nose. But I suspect you don't feel the same as old Rodney.
She says, I grew up on an estate where I was practically born with a shotgun in my hand. So yes, I'm quite familiar with firearms and not at all afraid of them. I think everyone should have at least a basic comfort level. One must protect oneself after all. The world is a dangerous place, as I keep trying to tell Rodney. And he says, always the dramatic one, Ingrid, always the dramatic one.
I mean, it's a bit of a pain to get shot there and not be able to return fire, or at least not know how, Rodney.
Yeah, you're speaking to our resident shotgun enthusiast here. Back home, they do call a shotgun lottie.
Or Shotty Lottie, which is what my brother's called me.
I prefer the other way, but...
She says, I'm sure it helps having brothers to raise you. No, I had only my father to teach me, but it was sufficient.
I'm sure it was. I had around 9 different siblings, maybe 10. I never can remember. I kind of cycled out. Mother just kept popping them out, and it was hard to tell when one stopped and the other began.
Well, I hate to say
It's
it,
good to
but
know how to use a gun.
that is the common understanding of the Irishman, is it not?
Oh, I mean, it's very true.
She says your mother must be a very tired woman.
Oh, aye, she's quite tired now. Can't really scream at the children anymore. Lost her voice many a year ago, so she just gets one of the other ones to scream at the rest.
I see. Well, that is efficiency.
Are they dressed as if they have money?
So Ingrid, yeah, Rodney definitely, like, he is dressed in a coat and, you know, the cravat. You can, like in his picture, he looks like he must have money. And Ingrid strikes you just by her manners and all of that, that she probably was born well, but she doesn't, but she's wearing much more practical bush clothing. Like, she looks like she's going on safari. So she's got that kind of Jane Goodall look to her, as opposed to Rodney, who looks like he could be, you know, going to a formal occasion. They make kind of an odd pair dressed next to one another.
Well, maybe we'll run into one another in Nairobi.
Ingrid says, perhaps if you would like, you and I could have dinner and talk more about your experiences. I would love to hear about America. Said it's, as you might imagine, we don't get too many visitors to Germany.
Oh, I might have a story or two.
That would be lovely.
Sure. Anytime. Well?
Rodney says, yes, we'd love that. And Ingrid says, I didn't invite you, Rodney. Oh, yes, of course. He smiles awkwardly.
Well,
yes, well, I'll do some reading then this evening, she says.
If you want to read, maybe all three of you can read together. Make a party out of it.
Oh, yes, that could be delightful. Certainly. If you don't mind. I don't mind company. He looks kind of hopefully at William and Lottie.
Well, I usually do most of me riding alone, but well, we've already got one Englishman. Might as well add another.
Oh, he says, I hope you don't mind. I do have a habit of reading poetry aloud when I'm reading. I can't help it, really. I just start mouthing the words, and eventually the sounds start coming out. Ingrid says, yes, it's a rather annoying habit, Rodney.
I think you'd love to hear you read your poetry, or any sort of poetry there, Rodney.
Good heavens. It's not my poetry. He says, I'm not a writer, really.
I mean, you could be. I mean, never say never.
Oh, do you really think so? And you can tell he's being completely in earnest here if you really think he could be a poet.
Ooh, go ahead, William.
William's smiling, but it's like really forced. You can tell it's halfway between fading and he keeps looking to see if Lottie's serious about sitting and listening to his poetry.
I think Lottie catches William's strained grin, and she fully leans into it.
Oh, hi, Rodney. I think you could definitely do some writing.
Ingrid smiles and puts a hand on Rodney's arm. She says, "Well then, it's settled, Rodney. You will join them for some poetry reading, and after dinner. That would be lovely. Maxine and I can talk and smoke and have drinks in the dining car."
Lovely, yes.
And Rodney says, "Oh, good." I usually just pass the evening's reading. This would be a delightful. I very much look forward to it. And he and Ingrid get up, and there's shaking of hands all around.
I assume we kind of eat our lunch and then go back to our car.
Yes, I assume. I mean, that's up to you.
Yeah, that sounds good.
What do you think of those two? There's something going on here.
I'm feeling that, it's fairly interesting with, him being the way he is and doing his travelings. I'm sure
the way
it's
he
mostly
is.
to indulge her.
I like that.
Maybe you better let William take the lead.
Well, he might be mighty interested in you there, William, but, you know.
William laughs and shakes his head. Did you really want to listen to his poetry?
I didn't at first, but then I just saw how uncomfortable you were, and then I had to know exactly what his poetry would be.
She gives a very large smirk to William.
He smiles back.
It might be useful to get them separated. I take it that she's the tough nut to crack between the two. He's a softer target. You might be able to get more out of him once they're separated.
Why, he does seem like he wants to talk about things, so butter him up a bit, have him read some of his poetry, or whatever he has, and grill him afterwards.
I'm sure we can maybe order some wine for the room.
Oh, I definitely enjoy something to drink on here, even if it is wine.
Might have something stiffer. I mean, he
Oh,
won't,
they
but
certainly have something stiffer.
yeah, we'll order some of that for to have in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you order it here, they bring it to the table, and you know, you can certainly take the glass back to the room with you. Okay, you take your drinks.
We can't buy a bottle to have in our room later.
They don't sell the bottles.
Can Max roll to see if she can convince him?
Sure. What do
Like
you think's appropriate? Charm's the obvious choice, but if you have something better,
I'll go with charm.
go ahead.
Slip some fiver or something.
Yeah, there's the waiter is this guy. He says, "Normally, ma'am, I'm not supposed to do this, but for one such as pretty as you, I will make an exception." And he smiles with his very white, perfectly straight teeth, and he's dressed nicely. Like he's got a coat on, and he goes to the back kitchen and brings you out very subtly, he's got it under his coat, and he passes you a bottle of whiskey. He said, I assume as an American you would prefer this to the gin.
She grins and, probably with startling deftness, tucks it into her purse.
Yeah.
And
it's like a 375. It's not big.
Yeah. You assume correct. Although I am more particular about some things than others. You're a resourceful man.
I like to think so, ma'am.
Do you always work on this train?
It has been my job for 3 years now.
You hail from Nairobi?
That is where my family is from, yes.
I see. Well, any members of your family willing to serve as translators or local guides while we're in the area?
He smiles and he says, I have a cousin who would be very helpful to you in that regard if you are interested.
Is he as good looking as you are?
Of course not. But,
well.
But he comes recommended. I recommend him. He is a good man, though not anywhere near as good looking as I am.
Well, I'll take what I can get, I suppose. She'll try to, find out how she could contact him once they get there.
She says, he says when we arrive there'll be a small time for the train to refit. I can point you to where you'll find him. His name is Juma, born on Friday.
Juma, born on Friday. Oh, I love that. And what was your name?
He says, my name is Chibuzo.
Chibuzo. Well, I'm
just
Maxine.
Chibuzo. I was not born on Friday. He smiles.
And I'm Maxine, and I wasn't born yesterday.
I can see that.
All right, I'm just gonna make notes of that. She'll flirt a little bit more and then go back to the room.
You can see, kind of sadly, he flirts with you a little bit, but it is very subtle. And you can see he's very conscious not to do it in front of any other passengers who might be looking. And then you head back to your car.
Yeah. She'll hand the spoils over. I got maybe a lead on a local guide.
Perfect. It's fantastic.
Shibuya, born on Friday. What do you think of that? That's a name.
That's a very interesting name. I haven't heard anything like that before.
Me neither. Did anybody get the feeling that these folks, when they said they were sightseeing, that wasn't what they were doing?
The name for what? She seems quite interesting, actually. Like perhaps she has something in mind. Maybe she's using him for his money.
I'm shocked at the suggestion, William. What you must think of us ladies.
As you said, a woman needs a guide.
Yeah, well, maybe he knows enough.
The story about the pen pals, though.
It's interesting.
I don't believe her.
Maybe. I mean, the families could have been friends, but it did seem a little unlikely. Do you guys want to do anything else, or should we fast forward to dinner?
I think we can fast forward to dinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the plan was to dine. It's too crowded for all 5 of you to sit at one table, but you can sit again. They can get you tables that are close, across the aisle from each other. Ingrid sits at the same table as Maxine. Like, she immediately, as you're all kind of settling down, she just sort of makes the assumption she's sitting across from Maxine.
Yeah, Max makes no bones about it. Well, you 3 have fun talking about poetry and flowers and stuff.
Boy, we will.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So wait, who sits with who?
Well, she wanted to have dinner with me, right? And the other 3 were gonna... I don't know if they were just gonna have drinks back in the apartment, or...
Yeah, I don't think it was entirely clear. But Rodney, clearly, he sits at the other table and kind of looks at William and Lottie expectantly.
Oh yeah, Lottie would go over and sit with him as well.
Across from or next to?
She'll sit across.
Okay.
William will walk up and offer him a warm smile again, and how do you do?
Quite well, thank you. I feel well rested. Actually took a nap today. Might actually sleep tonight.
William sits down next to Lottie, and
He says, I realize that sounds like it makes no sense, but I find that when I take a nap, I sleep much better. Strange, isn't it? One would think it'd be the other way around. But...
Does he seem like uncomfortable or shifty?
He just seems a little awkward to you. Like he's always awkward, not particularly nervous. Like you just, now that you've sort of sat and talked to him twice a little bit, you're kind of sensing it's just his mannerism.
Yeah. So William says,
But you can make a psychology check if you want to try to get a read on it a little more.
Oh God!
It is a night of fumbles.
He's in love with you, William.
Your sense is he's. I guess the fumble would mean he's just impossible for you to read. You just you like. 1 minute you're thinking, okay, he's just awkward, and another minute you're thinking, okay, he's nervous and he's got something to hide. And another minute you're just like, no, it's just fine. Like, I'm just so you're just. I would imagine your read is all over the place with him.
Okay. So at that, William kind of like shifts uncomfortably, a little bit, and looks around for a waiter or something, and
Yep.
Should we get some drinks?
There is only one waiter. And
I think we should get some drinks. I think so.
There you are, old chap. Could we get some drinks over here?
of course, sir. What can I get for you?
He looks to Lottie and raises an eyebrow. What would you like? Something strong?
Whiskey as always.
Whiskey.
I'll have a gin and tonic, please. And Chibuzo momentarily he makes a very subtle wink at Maxine. He says, "We are getting a little low on whiskey right now, but I'll see what I can do."
Max gives a little wink back.
Ingrid asks Maxine, "What is your drink?"
Oh, I'll have some whiskey.
She says, "Then I will try that too. I don't believe I've ever tried Irish whiskey before."
You'll probably want some ice with it.
I will take her suggestion. And he goes to get your drinks.
So what do you usually have? All I know about Germany is beer and pretzels, I suppose.
Beer and pretzels. Well, we do make very good pretzels. She says they're very salty, the more to make you want the beer, you see. It's very clever. She says, "I enjoy a good beer, yes, I must admit." She says, "We are obliged to like schnapps, though I must confess I am not really very fond of it.
A little sweet for my taste."
Yes, she says, she says, "Well, I don't mind the sweetness, but I prefer things that are more refined, maybe you could say. Essences, that sort of thing. The French do it very well."
Well, you're fortunate to have the luxury of preference. Back in America, you know, we kind of drink whatever's been left out too long.
Yes, I heard this. There is some laws against this drinking now, yes?
Oh, yeah. Naturally, everyone obeys the law in America. And she gives a wink.
She says, "I don't understand your people, why you think that drinking is something that humans should not do. This is a very natural thing."
She kind of leans forward conspiratorially and taps Ingrid on the hand with one finger and says, "Well, to be honest, I've been thinking about this myself, and I do believe that in America, what we truly appreciate is things that are forbidden." And then she kind of looks at her and then leans back.
She smiles and she says, "We have different restrictions in Germany than in America, though I'm sure there are some that are shared universally. But I agree with you. What is the fun of life if you don't violate them once in a while?"
You have a way with words.
She says, "I studied English at university. Not as my primary studies, of course."
I had a bit of schooling myself. You ever heard of the School of Hard Knocks?
I'm afraid I have not. Is that close to your Harvard University?
Nah, closer to Chicago.
I see.
Yeah, it's a maybe not the hardest school to get into, but it's hard to make it through.
I see. Well, that is very interesting. And what can you do with this knowledge that you have gained?
Get myself into trouble, mostly.
It seems this way. It has somehow gotten you from America to this country and looking at some expedition.
Yeah. Kenya from America by way of London and Cairo.
That makes sense. That would be the logical route. This is a long way.
Yeah, well, I ain't got much else to do that's worth spending time on. Not like this.
So she makes some more small talk. If there's anything specific you want to talk about, let me know, because you can easily steer the conversation any way you want. She seems open to any talk.
Yeah, I'll think about it. We could let them have some.
Mm-hmm. So
Time
what about
trying to
the
pry this guy.
other table?
William is, he just gets his whiskey and he's got it on the rocks. He's shaking the ice around and looking at the whiskey and he's thinking about it. This is probably the first time he's actually drank, strong stuff since the accident when he lost her.
Mm-hmm.
So he thinks on that for a moment and probably written on his face a little bit, but he tries to shake it off and takes a big drink and looks to Rodney and he says, "So you really never fired a gun?"
Oh, well, of course, as a youth I was obliged. My father tried to get me hunting, but I'm afraid I was always rather a bit of a disappointment.
Well,
It says between you and
when we
me,
were-
I think I purposely made too much noise. I was always hoping to scare off the prey. Not really much for the sight of blood, to be honest.
well, that's not a bad thing. I've never been into hunting the animals, that's for sure.
As my father says, it makes me less than a man. Well, said, rather, when he was alive.
Yeah.
I suppose you've shot many
Wait.
guns in your time. You have a bit of a rough and tumble look about you, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, I have. I don't mind guns at all, and as we were speaking before, I do agree. It's good to know how to use them and to protect yourself, especially in dangerous places like this. But I just...
He just motions over at Ingrid and says, "Well, I have Ingrid for that while I'm on this trip. She came well armed."
And he stops like mid-sentence and then like looks over towards Ingrid and
Yes,
He
she and
says she
Maxine
does-
are having a rather animated discussion at this point.
she does look like a tough one. Maxine as well.
He says, "Oh, you've no idea. I actually admire her in a way. She's always been the stronger of the two of us." And you see him kind of look down at his drink, and you feel like you kind of lose him for a second.
It's always good to have those you rely on, even if it seems a bit hard to acknowledge it. Yeah, we need those kind of people in our lives. It's good that you have her.
I've always thought so. Yes. I am lucky in that regard.
So, why travel here, though?
He kind of takes a couple breaths, and you can see he kind of wants to say something, but he glances over at Ingrid, and she's not looking. Her full attention is on Maxine. He just says, "It's actually a little personal, I'm afraid."
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude. It's just, it's also a little embarrassing, to be honest. But you might say, we are on holiday. of a sort. Tell me again why you're here. I must confess I'm not really quite sure I understood the earlier explanation.
Well, we're here really to...
And Lottie looks over to William.
I was gonna say William like raises his brow, looks at Lottie, and he looks at her lips, waiting for her to finish her sentence.
As she pauses briefly to look at William, trying to assess, and looks back to Rodney.
Rodney looks at you,
Here,
looks at William. Yeah. You look back at Rodney.
Yeah, just the whole thing. It's 10 minutes.
Camera back from face to face. Yeah, just sort of.
But she says,
I are... Well, first, I should say that I'm an archaeologist.
That's fascinating.
and
A woman archaeologist. I must confess I didn't know there was such a thing.
I know many people don't believe there's such things. Actually, one of the ladies who was at our old dig site, well, I should say one of the people was at our old dig sites. She was a lady as well. I think her name was, well, it doesn't matter. She was a bit of a stick in the mud. Though she was a German as well. Not saying all Germans are stick in the mud, but
she glances over to Ingrid and back to Rodney.
you know how they are sometimes, right?
The Germans. Oh.
Boy.
Oh yes, yes. Sometimes, yes, I must confess, Ingrid is lacking a bit in the sense of humor, I find. She means well, and she's a nice enough person, but I suppose it can take a little while for someone to get used to her way, and then they realize she's actually quite a decent sort.
I mean, that's with most people. Oh, the Germans are a bit of a hard nut to crack.
Yes,
But,
I suppose we're supposed to not like them after what happened in the Great War, but well, I've never particularly had any ill feelings toward them, I must confess. And he kind of glances at William a little defensively.
William nods like in agreement. He says, "Oh, I agree. Not all of them are at fault for what happened."
No, and he leans forward a little bit and glances over and he says, "And I wouldn't get Ingrid started on the injustices of the end of the war if I were you. It's a topic she will get very upset about. I don't bring it up."
And William leans in and smiles, raises his cup, his glass. "Oh, I won't say anything if you don't."
"Oh, I don't. And he raises his glass and clinks it with yours and holds it up to toast Lottie as well.
Lottie raises her own glass and clinks it against Rodney.
Shall we drink a toast to not mentioning it?
Well, I'm very happy to do that. To not bringing up bad things, eh?
Yes. It's enough bad things in the world to worry about, don't you think? And he puts a drink back.
Lottie takes a sip.
Secrets.
He looks at you a little curiously, but he says, "I suppose I could drink to that as well."
And then William takes a big sip and lets it warm his insides for a moment and says, "So, you had some poetry."
Oh, yes. In fact, this afternoon I took the opportunity to go back and see if I had any perhaps Irish poetry. I'm afraid the best I could come up with was a Scottish poet. But I'd love to entertain you with some of it this evening after dinner. He's smiling at Lottie.
I'd very much like to hear whatever poetry that you've pulled up.
I'd be delighted.
I'm not much of a investigator or reader of poetry myself, but I've sung quite a few songs while I was in the pub when I was younger, so I'd say it's more of a lyrical poem that I'm familiar with.
Yes. He says, I just like the sound of it. I like the way it sounds when I read it. And he says, I have to admit, half the time I have no idea what they're talking about. But somehow I don't know, it makes me feel smarter or more alive, more, I don't know, more in connection with things. Does that sound ridiculous?
No, not at all. It's good to find connection.
No.
Yes, well, yes, I suppose it must be. And he smiles a little awkwardly and nervously again.
Scottish poetry, you said?
Yes, he says, I grabbed a bunch of poetry books off of my father's shelves, late father's shelves. He has a rather extensive library. I've actually never read his stuff before. I forget his name, a mix something, though. Of course.
William looks at Lottie and a totally playful smile on his face. Scottish and Irish is the same thing, right?
Lottie turns in her chair to look at William. I'm sorry.
Rodney, who clearly took you at your word, says, "Oh no, not at all, sir. I assure you, they're not at all the same." He says they may be under the umbrella of our United Kingdom, but they are very different and have different backgrounds. Didn't you say you were an anthropologist?
Probably not a good one then. And Lottie, she reaches her empty hand and takes the glass out of William's hand. I think you should stop drinking now.
William laughs and he says, "I'm joking, of course."
Oh, I see. Yes, very good, sir. Very good. And he looks relieved and takes a drink. He turns to Lottie and says, "Oh, that must have really gotten your goat."
Lottie looks fairly angry. She takes a long drink of from William's cup before handing it back to him.
And he takes his glass back and smiles and gives her a wink and says it's probably for the best.
You're a bit of a shite, aren't you?
Well, good heavens, I don't know what to say.
He shakes his head. He says, "That's okay. She gets me every day."
I see. And he looks at the two of you, back and forth between the two of you. And Lottie, you detect a cloud of disappointment of some kind pass over his face.
Oh no. Lottie looks to Rodney and then she glances over to William.
I have to deal with this one ever since met him in Egypt, actually. He's been on my case ever since. Can't shake him.
Oh, persistent, is he?
He always seems to like following me around, and I tolerate it.
Well, why wouldn't he? You're a lovely woman. And you can see he immediately regrets having said that and takes a drink and He says, so what kind of sightseeing are you hoping to do while you're in the, you said Aberdare Forest, did you not?
Oh, Lottie seems pretty thrown through a loop. She scratches her cheek with her pointer finger and looks to Rodney. A bit of sightseeing, honestly. As Maxine was saying before, that we're following a little bit in the Carlisle expedition's footsteps. Of course, trying not to get in the same way, but...
yes, of course. He says, if you don't mind, I'm going to excuse myself. I really would like to freshen up before our poetry reading in a bit.
Oh, of course.
Oh, of course.
Yes. he gets up and he just kind of nods, and you can see he starts to put his hand out to shake your hand, William, but kind of stops and in the middle and just kind of. I'll come by your cabin shortly.
Please do, please do. And
he goes. And Ingrid says, "Oh, done already, Rodney. Good heavens!" And she looks at you, William, and says, "Rodney was never one to be able to hold his liquor too well. Perhaps he is stopping while he's ahead." And she just laughs.
William offers her a smile and kind of watches Rodney go, and then sits back down to kind of whisper, lean into Lottie, and say, "Oh yeah, looks like he fancied you, huh?"
Oh, it seems so. To be honest, it wasn't quite expected. I'm not sure what it is about you British men. It's...
How do you mean?
Lottie looks to William. She cocks an eyebrow. What do you mean? What do I mean?
You mean how handsome we are? Is that what you're trying to say?
The Lottie, her cheeks color slightly. No, not talking about that. Well, she takes a long drink of whiskey.
I believe I gave away too much information. I didn't know you.
Back. We'll hold him back. It's fine. It's fine.
Maybe I should excuse myself while leave you alone with him for a bit. See if you can get some information out of him.
Oh, I'll try my best, but honestly, I only have the leg up for being him being interested in me. You're the charming one out of the two of us.
I don't agree with that at all.
And Ingrid immediately flips around.
What did you say?
Charming.
Blucher.
I think he'll finish with a whisper to her and say, I am interested in that secret."
Oh, me too. I'll do my best to get it out of him. No promises though, but I'll try.
All right, so I assume you two finish up and then go back to your cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And Rodney does join you in your cabin a little bit later. And he has a little poetry from it's William McGonagall is the poet, and he he wants to get right into it. Here's a sample of William McGonagall's poetry. Fellow citizens of Bonnie Dundee, are ye aware how the magistrates have treated me? Nay, do not stare or make a fuss when I tell ye they have boycotted me from appearing in Royal Circus, which in my opinion is a great shame and a dishonor to the city's name. And the rest of the poetry is just as horrible as that. But he reads on and on. This poet seems to like to write about how he has been aggrieved by various authorities and other people. But Rodney doesn't seem to care, and he just reads, and he's happy as a clam reading. You get the sense he just likes to lose himself in the poetry. That's your takeaway from it, I guess, is that he seems happy and content. And as soon as he stops reading, it's like he comes back to reality and he's sad again.
Lottie. Oh, go ahead, William.
I was gonna say William is gonna overact and clap. You know, very good, very good.
As hard as it may be, stiff upper lip and all that. So,
Yeah.
Soldier on, Sir William. Yeah. Okay, well, he seems pleased that you seem pleased. So.
He says, William says, very good read. I must excuse myself.
He says, well, I'm very happy you enjoyed it. He says, I don't often get the opportunity to read it aloud to other people. It seems that they always have something they need to do.
Lucky for you.
As William is about to leave.
Yeah, William's about to leave. He's standing up.
He's like, he even almost stops at that point.
And as he's saying that, he's looking, and you can just see the hopeful look on his face.
He's like, I will be right back. I have to relieve myself.
Of course, of course. And yes, the shared toilet, there's two in this car, and they happen to be right next to your cabin, fortunately. So it's a short trip.
Nice. And William will actually walk out, try to listen in and stuff.
Yeah, and I think as you step out, you may notice Maxine and Ingrid going into her cabin. Is that right, Maxine?
Yeah, she has a few more, a little bit more that she'd like to ask Ingrid.
Yeah. Ingrid basically suggested maybe you can talk in private back in the. You've raised eyebrows a little bit at how much you're laughing. Like, she actually has loosened up a bit and isn't quite as stiff when the other three have gone, and you're laughing a little loudly. And she says perhaps we should continue this in private. We won't be disturbing the public.
Yeah, Max looks around kind of dismissively at everyone else. Yeah, well, screw them, but sure, let's head back to your room.
She whispers in your ear as you go by. She says, I would much rather screw you.
Max, kind of raises an eyebrow. She did not expect her to be so forward. And then she just kind of links arms with her and says, well, I think we should get to know each other better first.
She says, she says, well, we have the train ride. Then who knows what will happen. I prefer to seize the moment, but I understand your hesitation.
Yeah, she'll, once they get into the room and settled, she'll, look around. I wish I did have that bottle of whiskey, but I left it in the other room. But, it doesn't really matter. And, yeah, have a seat beside me, Ingrid.
She comes and sits.
She kind of cocks her head to one side. I sense in you a kindred spirit, Ingrid, in more ways than one.
I am hoping that is the case.
But a person in my position, by necessity, takes on a suspicious nature. I tell you what, I suspect that you and your friend Rodney here, you ain't here sightseeing. But I don't expect you to trust me all the way either. We just met.
She says, well, there is one way we could get to know each other a little better.
You are direct, Ingrid. And,
she says my people are very direct.
I tell you what.
We appreciate subtlety when it is needed, but...
Well, in some ways, you might be surprised to hear I'm kind of an old-fashioned gal. I gotta feel that there's a little bit of trust before I go in that direction.
As you wish.
I gotta know you don't have ulterior motives.
Concerning you?
She says, I'm gonna start this journey, and I'll tell you something about myself, and maybe that'll settle my mind. I'm here because I'm here to find the people that killed my brother.
I'm sorry to hear about this. You were close?
Growing up, yeah, we was. And I
was not entirely honest with you earlier. I also had a brother, but he died when I was very young.
Oh, it's sad. Was he sick?
No, it was not like that. It was a terrible accident.
She says, no, I'm really wishing we had a drink. Well, I can see why that's something you don't raise in casual conversation. Still, hopefully no one was to blame for it.
You can see she's breathing a little harder, like she just, this is clearly not a direction she wants the conversation to go in. And she actually stands up and she says, it is getting a little hot in here, you don't mind if I take this off, do you? And she just starts to unbutton her blouse.
Yeah, Max will say, oh, not at all. And she'll walk over and say, let me give you a hand.
Okay. She accepts your assistance. And she turns and kisses you. I assume you allow that.
Yeah, she'll allow it. I don't think it's the direction Maxine usually goes.
Mm-hmm.
It might even be a novel experience.
I did get that impression, yeah.
She'll go with it.
Yeah, so you end up back on the seat. She's a little, what's the word? I mean, she's definitely take charge kind of person if you let her. The curious thing is, though, you're kind of lying back, and I would imagine like lots of thoughts going through your mind, like this is a little sudden.
Yes.
She raises back up and reaches up to undo her bra. Her they have these big brassiers, the big German brassiers. And as she takes it away, you see that she has this tattoo on her chest. and it's like a big black spiral.
Max is definitely taken aback by that, and she kind of pauses in the making out or whatever's going on, and says, "Whoa, what's this? I don't normally see ladies with
She says,
inkwork."
You can see she just says it's. I will explain this later, after, if you don't mind. It's nothing. And she seems to be intent on continuing.
I'm not sure how much Max is really into it. I'm not even sure how much of Max is into it with anyone. Like, she's very, like, manipulative, like people are to be used. So I think that she could probably go through with it as easily as she could with a man.
Okay.
But it does give her pause. It's just weird and unexpected. And she was planning on putting a halt to it and going back to her room, but once she sees the tattoo, she gets a kind of calculating look in her eye for a moment and says, "Oh, of course, don't let me interrupt you." And then I think we can fade to black from there.
Yeah, I agree. Let's keep it at least PG rated. So yeah.
You're not gonna describe it, Darren?
No.
Two women together?
Switch GMs.
Do I need to? Yeah.
Yeah, she takes out her top now. I'm the GM now.
Yeah, so things happen. So my question would be whether Maxine leaves right after or stays.
Oh, she wants to know about this tattoo. She's
Okay.
hoping for some
All
pillow
right.
talk.
Yes. So we'll go back to William and Lottie and Rodney. So William, you are sort of eavesdropping from outside the compartment.
Yes.
All right. So Rodney just kind of looks a little uncomfortable with William gone. And he seems content to just sit there and wait for William to come back and just kind of stare at you a little uncomfortably, Lottie.
Lottie will wait a few seconds and then she'll smile to Rodney and say, if you'd like, I'm sure William, he'll be back in, a bit. I wouldn't mind, just hearing it with just me here. That's perfectly fine.
Well, certainly. Let's see. Good people of Dundee, your voices raise, and to Miss Baxter give great praise. Rejoice and sing and dance with glee, because she has founded a college in bonny Dundee. He certainly does like bonny Dundee, doesn't he?
Oh, it's the Scots. They really enjoy that sort of thing.
And they certainly do like the word bonny a lot.
I think a lot of it's bonny lass. Not sure.
So what kind of poetry do you like, Lottie?
To be perfectly honest, like I said, it's a lot of it's just pub songs and stuff that I've been, growing up on. But
I do enjoy a pub.
most of me reading and such is it's from. I know how to. I've studied hieroglyphics for quite a few years.
I've heard of those.
Recently.
Isn't that the how they speak in Egypt?
Exactly, they speak Arabic in Egypt, which I'm also fluent in. Hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics are, if you go into the pyramids there, it's the pictures that depict the goings-on back, when people were buried in various pharaohs and such.
Yes, sort of like children's picture books.
way, but much more artistic and much more, I'd say, professional and fascinating in a way.
I see. Well, it sounds fascinating.
It is. Yeah. Well, like you, well, you're interested in poetry and such, which is quite a wonderful art form.
Well, it's just a pastime, really.
If it's a pastime, it's a good pastime to have. For reading poetry from whatever time period it be in, whether it be more modernistic poetry or things of the past, it really does give you some insight into the goings on of what was important in those times and such, and what really meant things to people, which is very fascinating.
You're a very thoughtful person, Lottie. I appreciate that.
It's she scratches the side of her cheek again. It's almost yeah, kind of an archaeological thing in its way, even though it is more of the reading farm and books and such. It's you're still digging up and finding out, like I said, just information on the time and well, what meant the most to people and what was the real issues, and what people talked about. For a lot of things that can't be communicated in, the regular day-to-day and such is communicated through poetry and through song.
Yes. So William, so the waiter's not going to come through the cabin probably. You're going to have to go to the dining car for that.
You do have that bottle of whiskey in there.
Yes.
Oh, I do.
Are you going to try to get him drunk?
Lottie will pour him another drink and say, "Oh, why didn't you read me a few others there?"
Yeah, I mean, he'll drink, and you can see already he doesn't handle his liquor very well. He kind of, he reads one, and you're, cheering him on, whatever. He keeps glancing at the door and asking, "Is William coming back?" At some point, he clearly seems a little nervous.
Yeah, William's gonna come back after he remembers about the bottle, and comes back in.
Yep. He seems to visibly relax when William comes back.
All right, I didn't miss much, did I?
I could read it again if you'd like.
Oh, please do. Please do.
All right. He
had,
thumbs back a few pages.
Lottie had moved to sit beside Rodney when William left, and as Rodney flips through the book again to try and find the pages, she leans backwards and glares over at William. You can see her eyebrows furrowing and a slight shake of the head.
And Rodney starts reading again. He goes, "I think this was about where I left off. Tell me if you remember this one." And he starts reciting again. I'm afraid I can't do it. I just can't make myself do it. It's so bad.
William gets another glass, and he smiles at Lottie, kind of puts his hands out and as if to say, "This is your fault." And he sits down across from them and smiles, still keeping up his happy demeanor, like he's very happy to hear him read this poetry.
Yeah, and these seats are a little narrow, Lottie, so you are kind of forced to squish up against them just a little bit, which...
Oh, that's fine with Lottie.
Well, yeah, it clearly makes him a little uncomfortable. He doesn't seem to mind, but he seems, like, you're getting the sense he's probably not been around women very much, except maybe Ingrid, and she doesn't strike you as very feminine, so but as he drinks, he gets a little more loose and relaxed, and laughs a little bit, actually. So, where are you taking this?
Lottie is trying to get him to a point, basically, when he's a bit more comfortable, and she'll start. I think a lot of it, she'll just start talking about her own history and herself at one point, and try to pry into Rodney's history, and
So, and you're being honest, I assume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lottie's being honest about her own history.
Yep. Okay.
Her studies, and basically asking Rodney, like, what does he do?
He studied chartered accountancy.
Chartered accountancy. I've never met it. Is it a chartered accountant?
Like his
Is that
father.
what you're called?
Yes, just like his father. He's followed in his father's footsteps. He said his father was determined that that his father that Rodney would take over his father's firm when he died. It's a London firm, and he starts telling you about it, but you can tell even he is bored by it. It doesn't sound like he enjoys his work very much.
I think after it's very obvious that Rodney is bored, she'll wave her hand and say, "Oh, let's skip the shite." So that's why you're traveling a lot, right? Really just to get away. I mean, honestly, that job sounds boring as piss, Rodney.
He says, not really to get away, more to go to, you might say, really. But you don't want to hear about that.
Look, Rodney, Lottie looks down. I've learned, I would say I do want to hear about it. I had a recent scare, where I thought my life was probably going to be leaving me soon, and I find that if I not listening to people and not stopping to tell these stories and share yourself with someone else and that sort of thing, it really was a mistake on my part to not do those sorts of things. So I don't know, I am interested in why you're here, really.
Well, if you really want to hear about it, it's a little embarrassing, I think I said. It's our dreams, really.
What do you mean?
Well, literally dreams. I've had them for quite some time now, and well, so has Ingrid.
Lottie looks to William and her face hardens. She looks very seriously back to Rodney. Rodney, please stop me if I'm hitting a bit too close to home. Is there some sort of I don't know, an upside down ankh or something, or some sort of upside down pyramid, or you're feeling like you're in space and it's very, very scary in these dreams?
He's thinking, and he says, I don't remember any of those things. Usually it's about water. It has been anyway, but lately it's a mountain. A very particular one.
One that is here.
Well, yes, I believe so. That's why we're here, actually. It's not really supposed to talk about it with other people. It's private, but I can count on your discretion, I hope.
Of course.
Aye, of course.
He said, I have a reputation to maintain back home and everything. Come off very silly. Anyone found out I'm here on the basis of some sort of ridiculous dream.
Rodney, Carlisle had the same dreams as you did.
Who? Oh, Carlisle, yes.
Roger Carlisle.
That Carlisle. Oh, did he?
Aye. It early something
He trained about
similar.
a mountain too.
As far as what we've heard from his sister, aye. Or at least that's in the notes.
Well, I hope his dreams were not as unsettling as mine. It makes it hard to sleep. And they're frustratingly vague, I'm afraid. But
You said that Ingrid had these dreams as well.
Yes, well, it wasn't exactly the dreams that brought her to me at the beginning. It was, well, it was something else. But yes, we seem to share a lot of the same dreams. I know that sounds ridiculous. Even we thought it, well, very strange and highly unlikely at first, but when you have enough examples, it starts to make you believe in it, I have to say. Ingrid, she's the true believer in all of that. She thinks it means something. I have no idea what it means, to be quite honest. But I know I'm supposed to be here. Again, I know that sounds very strange. I can't explain. I just know I'm supposed to be here. I saw myself in a dream getting on a boat and getting off in Mombasa and hiking up into the mountains. And there was one in particular. I know that's where I'm supposed to go. Can't exactly tell you which one, but we're hoping to recognize it when we see it.
Lottie, she looks, it's a mix of excitement but hesitation. She looks to William, almost this questioning, pleading look, looks back to Rodney.
He takes
William
another drink. You can see he's starting to spiral down a little bit.
Yeah. William says he looks very seriously at Lottie and like nods his head, you know, to her, and he says, "I believe you, old chap. There's been strange things happening since I left home on my adventures."
You're not going to tell me you've been dreaming of mountains too, are you?
I have not been dreaming of mountains, no. But I've just seen many strange things of late. He looks to Lottie. Things that most people wouldn't believe.
I know how that feels.
We've had friends and such who've they haven't written specifically about what was what was detailed in the dreams, but they've experienced similar things to you and Ingrid.
I see. He takes another drink.
I don't think that this meeting, Rodney, was an accident at all. The three of us meeting you two.
He smiles weakly, and he says, I suppose not. I'd like to believe everything happens for a reason, don't you?
I think so. And if you... I'm going to be bold in saying this, but if you don't mind, well, I'd like to stay in contact at least. I think we're maybe going the same way.
That would be lovely, Lottie. I enjoy your company very much. And he kind of puts his head back on the seat cushion, you know, the headrest, and kind of lulls a little bit over towards you. You can see he is starting to nod off.
Oh, name. She pats the side of his head. We need to get you to your cart there, sweetie. You need to sleep it off, aye?
Can I maybe just sleep here? It's... he looks like he's drifting deep.
Lottie is gonna attempt. She honestly probably couldn't. She's gonna look to William for some help. He is
starting. He's like the leaning tower of Pisa. He's just starting to kind of roll over onto you. Not intention, but you know, he's just kind of collapsing onto you very slowly. And Lottie, this little thing, is like rapidly becoming pinned under his.
Yeah, William jumps up very quickly at that and tries to help him up. Maybe puts his arm, Rodney's arm, over his shoulder so he can maybe lift him up.
You hoist him up, but he is not much help.
Yeah. And shall we take him to his room? What room were they in? Rodney, what room are you in?
Down the hall. You just kind of... You don't understand what he's saying. He's sort of vaguely pointing up somewhere.
Shades.
Perhaps he should just sleep right on that side there.
Let's just lay him down here. I'll pull out the bed for him and you can sleep it off in here.
Okay, yeah, and he just kind of curls up, and you hear him kind of go, "Good night, Ingrid. I'll see you in the morning."
And William looks to Lottie, and he has a different room, right, across from there?
William has the room across the hall, yes.
So this is Lottie and Maxine's room, technically.
Yes.
Oh, he says, well then, maybe you should stay in my room for the night, I suppose.
I think that's for the best, though.
She looks back towards the door.
Maxine looks like she's, probably busy with Ingrid talking. Probably just the two of us for a little bit at least.
And William nods, and he kind of smiles. You can tell, definitely, he's happy about that. And, well then, should we, pick the bottle?
Oh, aye, let's take some seats. Don't mind me, I'm probably gonna sit on you or something. A bit more comfortable than the seat.
I wouldn't mind that at all. And make a good seat.
Lottie smiles very cheekily. Oh, I bet you do.
And as they get to the door, he's probably gonna lean in for a kiss.
Oh yeah, Lottie is definitely gonna take it.
All right.
The love train.
Yes.
Choo-choo.
Love train.
It's the Mile Long Club.
Promises something for
Achievement unlocked.
All right. Well, I guess you two have a little something at least, and in William's cabin. Okay, let's jump back to Maxine and Ingrid then.
Woo!
So yeah, about probably about an hour or so later, she's
Yeah, Max is thinking with men it doesn't usually take an hour.
yeah, right.
You're just not doing it right.
She asks if that was your first time as a woman.
Max nods shyly, or in her mind shyly.
Yeah, she says it's all right. You were a good student.
Yeah, I'm a pretty fast learner. You got any smokes in here?
Of course. She offers you a cigarette in a nice silver cigarette case.
She'll take one and start smoking on it, kind of lay back. So, what's up with the ink there?
She says, I did not do this to myself, I assure you.
Well, I assume someone else did it.
Well, what I mean is, it was done to me when I was a child.
Is that common in Germany?
Of course not. It is quite unusual. It was under very strange circumstances, I will admit.
Well,
She
now I
sits.
gotta know.
Are you really that interested?
I know there's gotta be a good story behind this, so... Absolutely.
Well, as a child of 6, my family and I went to the seaside. My brother was 4. We made sandcastles for a bit, and my parents were discussing something of adult nature. I don't remember what, but I remember the day. It was a very clear and beautiful day in the middle of the summer, and the Baltic was very lovely. It is often very cold, but that day it wasn't as cold as usual, so I begged my mother to let us go into the water, and I think she was somewhat distracted. I don't know if she would have allowed us to go unsupervised, but that day she said yes, and I took my brother into the water. We, well, I think you can imagine that things did not go well. We swam a bit too far, and there was a current that carried us out to sea somewhat. My brother disappeared beneath the waves, and I was unable to save him, but I tried. I dove down many times to try to find him. You understand, I was only 6. I did not know exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, Max will reach out with her free hand and kind of squeeze Ingrid's and nod.
Yeah, she's puffing hard on that cigarette now. And she does pause for a minute and stare out the window at the night sky as you pass by the savannah. And she says, I should have died that day. I remember swallowing water and not knowing which way was up. That is my last memory. The next thing I remembered was being on the shoreline, in the sand, and exhausted. I rose and wandered the beach. It was nighttime, trying to find my parents, but of course they were not there. In fact, there was no one there at the beach. I remember in my child brain being very angry at my parents for leaving me, not trying to find me. But I eventually wandered my way into the seaside village, and they seemed very surprised to see me. I apparently had been missing for 3 weeks.
Max just raises her eyebrows at that. 3 weeks.
Yes, my parents had already returned. The authorities had already given up trying to find me. They had searched the beach and the seaside. They had boats, coastal guards looking for me. They could not find me anywhere. They returned home devastated at the loss of the 2 children. I'm afraid my mother ended her life. And I was left with this, and she points to the spiral on her chest.
That happened while you were missing.
She says, I assure you I did not go into the water with this. My father was quite convinced that I had been kidnapped and misused by someone, but I would have remembered such a thing, I am sure.
Max kind of says, well, I don't know. What do you think happened?
She takes a puff on her cigarette and she looks at you eye to eye, very seriously. And she says, that is the question, isn't it? I have spent the majority of my life trying to understand the significance of this event. I have studied everything I could to try to understand, to find a clue as to what it might mean.
What have you discovered?
Well, I discovered Rodney, for one thing. He had a very similar incident happen to him as a child. Uncannily similar, though without the loss of a younger sibling.
How did you find each other?
I researched it for years, looking for someone who might have had a similar experience or a similar mark upon their chest, and I came across a small article about a local boy in England who disappeared for several days and returned with this after a day at the seaside. And so I went and looked him up. And we have been friends ever since. His story of childhood pen pals is not exactly the truth. Though
Yeah.
we have written one another over the course of the years, trying to understand what we might learn from one another, sharing our thoughts and our dreams. And I mean this quite literally, the dreams, not our hopes.
Dreams.
Dreams of water, dreams of what might have happened to us. Images, fragments, feelings, sounds, trying to make sense of them, put them together.
So, you two are here together. Is this trip got something to do with finding answers?
It has everything to do with finding answers. Recently we have begun to share a similar dream. There is a place here that we must go to. It is our shared destiny. I do not know why or what.
But you dream about it.
Yes.
What is it? What do you see? How do you know it's here?
There is a mountain. A very dark mountain. There is a darkness around it. A darkness that spreads out from it. And yet there is something there that will answer or provide part of an answer to what this all means. I don't know. But we both agree that this call is very strong. And we both know that it is here in Kenya. I did research. We looked at photographs of the people, the places. There are unfortunately not many available, but when we saw them we knew right away this was the place. This is where we must go. And so we planned this trip together and come here now. She takes another puff and looks at you and says, "You must think I'm very crazy. You have just slept with a crazy woman. How do you feel about that?"
I think that's part of what I like about you, Toots. She kind of pats her on the arm. Yeah. I mean, I might know a little more about crazy than you'd suspect.
Even so.
May not be a coincidence, us running into each other. My business and your business. I don't see the direct connection, but there's enough about it that resonates, I think is the word I'm looking for.
She smiles a little, with a little bit of what you might read as resignation or sadness, and she says, "I used to think that everything happened for a reason. I told myself this. I think Rodney still does, but I'm not so certain anymore. I have looked so very hard, and I still feel that I am no closer to understanding than I was 20 years ago. But I feel that one way or another I will get an answer here, at least some clue, some indication of what this all means and why this happened to me and to Rodney perhaps."
And these answers, this knowing, it's that important. I mean, you know, the answers, once you find them, they might not be good ones. They might not help you sleep better at night.
She says, "This is Kenya. It could lead to my death, as your Carlisle people. If it does, so be it. I cannot live my life with this unanswered. I don't expect you to understand that.
Oh,
But it is every day, every hour of my life. It haunts me. It nags at the back of my mind. It cost me my brother and my mother, and I don't know why. I cannot sit and do nothing if I feel there is a way for me to understand."
Max just kind of sits there and listens. And then she says, "Look, Ingrid, I want to help you, but I'm worried. Worried that getting you more involved is, well, not a good idea."
She smiles and actually chuckles a little and says, "You get me more involved. You are worried about getting me involved?" She says, "I should be the one worried about getting you involved, Maxine."
Well, Ingrid, I never told you who killed my brother. And she says, and these folks, they're gonna be some of them here, and I suspect that they are at the heart of your secret.
Oh?
Like I said, I can't make a direct connection, but think about who I'm traveling with, Ingrid. An archaeologist, an anthropologist. These things, these strange things, well, they're more common than you'd think.
Yes. If you say so.
This mountain, I want to go there.
You suddenly hear glass smash, shatter, not very far away.
She leaps up, in some state of dishabille, I suppose, and...
Yeah, I mean, you guys are mostly not clothed.
Starts grabbing, looking around. She doesn't know if Ingrid has a robe in here. Anyway, she's looking for something to put on and reaches for her purse and pulls out her pistol.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
I don't know. Someone had an accident. You start to hear voices in some kind of alarm.
Dresses as quickly as she can, probably, leaving off shoes or stockings at least, just quickly putting on things, buttoning up, grabbing her purse, putting the pistol into it, but keeping her hand on it.
Okay. Yep. Make a dexterity roll for me. Oh yeah, you are surprisingly fast. I mean, you're like Superman. Boom, you've changed into your you've gotten dressed like in a flash.
She even redid her lipstick.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Ingrid is just kind of standing up, and you're already done. Like she's like, "What's going on?" William and Lottie, you two are probably, I don't know. That's up to you. But you heard it too. Yeah, I thought so.
Lottie sits up and pushes her hair back. What's going on?
Williams stops for a moment and looks towards the door. Sounds like someone dropped something, maybe? Or...
Maybe. Clumsy people.
Yeah. I think if they're in the middle of it, they probably...
Yeah, go ahead.
Probably go back to doing it. Oh.
Okay.
That would change things. Oh, shit. And he stumbles and, looks for his clothes, try to throw them on.
Okay. You hear there's some movement out in the hallway, and obviously you closed the curtain.
Of course. Lottie tries to pull on pants and shirt she has, attempting to slip it over. God, damn thing.
Dexterities for both of you.
Haha!
Okay, not bad, not bad.
Oh, no, someone's
William is probably still a little caught up in the. Yeah, it's a little. He breaks away a little slower than Lottie. Lottie's a little more alarmed. Lottie, because something like Lottie, as soon as you heard that glass smash, something, the hairs on the back of your neck raised, like something you just like a little sixth sense went off that did not go off for William. Something feels very wrong. And where we're going to leave it is, Maxine, you're out in the hall, I assume. You get dressed and go out in the hall. You can see in your cabin, your and Lottie's cabin, you see the flickering glow of fire coming from the cabin.
Oh no.
And that is where we will end.
Dum dum dum.
Oh, and none of us were in our room.
That's so true. Oh my god.
It might have been an attack meant for us.